Our first speaker, like Tyndall himself, is a native of Leighlinbridge, County Carlow, and along with Dr. Norman Macmillan, Joe Feely, and several other colleagues in IT Carlow, Martin has been promoting the great work of John Tyndall through the Tyndall Committee since 1973. He's the former president of the Carlow Historical and Archaeological Society, and he was the editor of the journal Carlowiana for many years, and would have published many articles on Tyndall during that time, so he definitely knows what he's talking about.
Coincidentally, in 1973, as the International Astronomical Union, the IAU, were given the name Tyndall to a crater on Mars, a number of lecturers at Carlow Regional College, now the Institute of Technology, were coming together along with scientists from the Agricultural Institute at Oak Park to establish what became known as the Tyndall Committee. In naming it the Tyndall Committee, the members were very conscious of the need to keep a balance, Tyndall being a staunch unionist and Darwin a strong nationalist. Both were local men and very little was known about them. However, early research work led to the erection of a plaque to mark Tyndall's birthplace in Main Street, Leighlinbridge, denoting him as a scientist, educationalist, controversialist and mountaineer. Soon afterwards, a plaque was unveiled on Ballinabranna School, indicating his attendance there from 1837 to 1839. Among other major projects undertaken, Tyndall members, together with a number of Tyndall experts, developed a biography, John Tyndall, Essays of a Natural Philosopher. It was published by the Royal Dublin Society in 1981, and here it is important to say this book has been the reference text ever since and has helped to restore John Tyndall to his rightful place as an Irish scientist and one of Ireland's most distinguished sons. In 1993, the committee, in conjunction with Carlow County Council, ran the Tyndall Centenary, which inspired and left an indelible legacy on his birthplace and perhaps the world. As a direct result of that conference, Tyndall Centre for Climate Change has locations in the following universities: East Anglia, Manchester, Southampton, Sussex, Oxford and Newcastle on Tyne. Tyndall was born in Leighlinbridge, County Carlow, on the 2nd of August 1820, and as he said himself, under a modest Irish roof. Tyndalls were descendants of small farmers who crossed over from Gloucestershire towards the end of the 17th century. His father, sometime shoe repairer and agent for the local landlord, joined the Royal Irish Constabulary on its formation. Young Tyndall first attended school in Leighlinbridge and continued to do so, even though being 6 kilometres distant in the village of Nurney on the transfer and promotion of his father to the rank of sergeant. After a 5-year spell in Nurney, he was again transferred, this time to Castle Bellingham in County Louth, before returning to Leighlinbridge in 1836. Amid strong religious controversy, John Tyndall Sr., a staunch Orangeman, sent his 2 children, John and Emma, to school in Ballinabranna, a Catholic school 6 kilometres away. The teacher there was John Conwell, a man of the Catholic persuasion also. Now, the local Protestant minister was highly annoyed at this and confronted John Tyndall Sr., to which he retorted, "Reverend Sir, if Conwell taught upon the altar steps of the Catholic Church, I would send my son to him, as I have no doubt that he will receive from Conwell a sound secular education that will fit him for life." Again, the members of the Tyndall Committee were instrumental in setting up the National Committee for Commemorative Plaques for Science and Technology. To date, there are 80 plaques erected, with more to come. We are proud of the fact that among the first wave of plaques, one to John Tyndall was erected in the Garden of Remembrance in Leighlinbridge. The National School in Ballinabranna was originally established by Bishop Doyle, James of Kildare and Loughlin, better known as JKL, whose extended evidence to the Educational Westminster Inquiry of 1831 was crucial in establishing the national school system in Ireland. According to my good friend and Tyndall expert, Dr. Norman Macmillan, this school, established 2 years later in 1833, was a prototype design for these schools, subsequently established throughout the British Dominion. Although built and furnished to accommodate 100 pupils, 9 years later there were 261 on the register in Ballinabranna. John Conwell, 1802 to 1880, was the first teacher appointed to this school, where he taught from 1833 to 1847. According to Tom Hurst, a very close friend of John Tyndall, while over in Ireland for an interview in Cork, made it part of his return itinerary to visit Leighlinbridge and meet this John Conwell that he had heard so much about from Tyndall. He found him to be, and I quote, a cadaverous-looking, thin-faced man with a felt hat on and a green patch over his left eye, a thorough schoolmaster, full of quotations which he delivered mouthily and looked importance itself, reminiscent of Goldsmith's village schoolmaster. However, despite his appearance, he provided a strong vocational education for his pupils, delivering a practical understanding of mathematics, accountancy, surveying, English, and English literature. According to Tyndall himself, it was in that very classroom that the foundation for his greatness was laid. In later life, he was quick to admit that there were a number of students in that very classroom capable of going every bit as far as he did. But it wasn't all classroom work. The route taken by John Tyndall and his sister Emma to Ballinabranna School was along the River Barrow towpath, which takes you to within a short distance of the school in Ballinabranna. There is evidence of this in his diaries, where he mentions passing over the 3 arches on his way to meet with Conwell. The 3 arches are characteristic of the towpath allowing tributaries to enter the River Barrow. John Conwell, his teacher, lived about midway between Ballinabranna and Leighlinbridge and about 300 metres in from the river towpath. In the evening on the way home, accompanied by his teacher, they worked out geometrical problems on the soft surface of the towpath. Tyndall never forgot the debt he owed to John Conwell and kept up correspondence with him while he lived, sending him a copy of each of his books. In correspondence of January 1841, the following stanza proves that Tyndall was one of his admired students, even at the age far beyond national school level. In youth my scholar and in age my friend, our love dear Tyndall, but with life shall end. Though severed now by intervening years, our souls and wishes join in sweet embrace. On leaving school he went to work in Carlow. However, it's important to record here how the young Tyndall acquired his first job with the Ordnance Survey. This comes from the diary of Michael Nolan, a deskmate of Tyndall's in school in Leighlinbridge, and whose family were basket weavers, barrel makers, etc. One day Tyndall and myself stepped out of the boat on the Little Barrow River and unloaded a cargo of willow wands, or sallies, from which baskets are woven. A party of English surveyors accosted us and demanded the use of our boat, a demand we hotly resisted. In the course of the altercation, reference was made to a certain delicate surveying instrument, which was necessary to send back to Dublin for repair. Tyndall repaired it, with the result that the news was carried that night to Dublin Castle, and inquiry made which resulted in a substantial interest in the lad's development. The rest is history. Nolan also writes that at that time Tyndall's precocity with ingenuity were the talk of the countryside. Over a period of 3 years, the records show that he did notable work around Leighlinbridge and then in County Cork towns of Youghal and Kinsale, where he was recognised as an accomplished practical surveyor and draftsman. There's an interesting little story about him sending home money to his mother. After a month's work, he had saved £1, which he sent home as a present to his mother, cutting it in 2 halves and sending each portion at different times, ensuring his safety in the post. As the Irish survey came to an end, Tyndall and a few others were chosen in 1842 to transfer to the English survey. And so began what he called his stiffest climb, his ascent from the banks of the Barrow to the banks of the Thames. It's a great tribute to this man from Leighlinbridge that so much has been given his name: the Tyndall effect, Tyndall scattering, Tyndallization, to name but a few. Many glaciers throughout the world bear his name. Tyndall Glacier, southern Chile; Tyndall Glacier in the Rocky Mountains, Colorado, USA; Tyndall Glacier, Otago, New Zealand; and Tyndall Glacier on the slopes of the Elias Mountains, Alaska, USA. Likewise, there are many areas associated with his name: Rio Tyndall, Patagonia, Chile; Tyndall Denkmal, Valais, Switzerland. He is honoured by having 3 towns in the world called after him: Tyndall in Ohio, USA; Tyndall in Dakota, USA; and Tyndall in Manitoba, Canada. A crater on Mars bears his name also.
Thanks for that, Martin, and it's amazing to think that there's a direct connection between Leighlinbridge to the Moon and Mars because of the great John Tyndall. If you get the opportunity to do the walk like Tyndall did from Leighlinbridge to Milford, and imagine him and Conwell solving mathematical equations by marking them in the clay of the Barrow track.